In today's video, I want to talk about the ideal life. Recently in my meditation, I was contemplating this aspect of what really is an ideal life. Now, many of us are familiar with those points in our lives where we think to ourselves, man, wouldn't it be great if I could wake up anytime I want, and I didn't have to go to work, and I had a ton of money, and all the people that I was attracted to wanted me sexually, and I was partying, and it was fun, and I was doing all the fun stuff. Is that the ideal life? And how many people get to experience that? And does it really work out? And recently I was listening to a gospel song, and I love gospel music. And in this particular song, the singer was so enamored with the idea that they could sit with Jesus and just be in the presence of Jesus. And I think that would be amazing too. But are you going to sit across from Jesus for years? Is that the ideal life? I think that in our culture, there's a lot of focus on the things that I have to endure and the hardships I have to go through and the difficulty of these people and this work situation and all the challenges that I have to endure. And there's a kind of an eye rolling of like, oh, you know how it is, everything goes wrong. So this idea of an ideal life where everything goes right seems very appealing, very attractive. As I continued to meditate on it, something interesting came to me, an acronym I feel is a good guide to how you can manifest the ideal life. Now the premise, first of all, is consider a human being. A human being is endowed with amazing qualities. A mind which is really unexplainable. It's some sort of a function of our being that allows us to think and contemplate and imagine and consider and joke and all sorts of stuff that's just mind-blowing. Ironically, it's mind-blowing. We also have a very intricate system of feelings. We can feel things in really, really subtle ways. We can watch a movie and just be completely heartbroken or raised up in triumph or infuriated just by watching something that on some level we know is not even actually true. It's fabricated. But we have this capability to experience deep emotional things. And we also have a physical body. And the body is also totally amazing. I mean, if you think about it, if you look around at the size of human beings and you look at the things that we've created and the sports that we've come up with and the entertainers and what they do with their bodies and their voices, it's amazing. So I really realized when I was meditating that the ideal life is not just a life of leisure where you sit around and do nothing. I just don't believe it doesn't make sense that we would be created to reach that point where we're kind of retired and wealthy and we don't have to do anything. And recently I had a period of time in my life when I wouldn't say that I was wealthy, but as a result of some money that I had, I took a trip and I had that kind of leisure lifestyle. And there was nice qualities about it, but also there was a sense of confusion around my purpose. Where is the meaning in my life when really all I'm doing is kind of indulging in, these activities like going to the beach or eating good food or just hanging out with friends? It was enjoyable, but there were days when I went, this doesn't feel right. So, in further meditating and considering, well, look at how a human being is endowed. And what is it that we are supposed to be doing? What would an ideal life on this planet look like? And what I have concluded is that we are created to express and experience. Many of us are inspired to express things that move and affect other people. And I think that's a beautiful quality. Where we sometimes get a little off track is that we express, yes, we want to affect people, but we want people to worship us, and that's an egotistical approach to it. So I'm not a big fan of that, but even great egotistical entertainers still can put out some amazing pieces of work that just totally work, and they totally move you, and they really entertain us. And then we hear in the media about how many of them are tortured, they're taking too much drugs, all their relationships are under scrutiny, and it appears as though they're constantly getting together and breaking up and going through divorces. And how much of that is true and how much of that is just the media that wants to publicize, the worst aspects? So let's get back to the idea that there is an ideal life. And I'm very confident that the ideal life is not, here's what it is. Like, get a bunch of money and then do this. No, I think the ideal life is something that each individual has the responsibility to create. And this is the beginning of the acronym which I alluded to earlier. The first letter of the acronym is D, and that is for desire. I want to talk about something that is often a point of contention amongst spiritual leaders or spiritual teachers, and that is desire healthy, or is desire the root of suffering? I have had people sit in on classes that I've given and said, well, you teach that it's healthy to have desire, but the Buddhists teach that that having desires is the root of all suffering. I'm not sure that's exactly what the Buddhists teach, but I have heard the attachment to desires leads to suffering. But think of desire as we are given free will. Human beings have a lot of choices in what we can do and what we don't want to do and what we do have to do. There are some things that really we don't have a lot of choice. Like, for example, you have to feed your body, and you have to sleep a certain amount, and you have to hydrate your body. Those are kind of non-negotiable. And for the most part, you need some form of shelter. There's very few people who can live completely outdoors. And even if you do live outdoors, generally you build some kind of a shelter against the weather. So there is a certain responsibility to take care of your flesh body. But consider that you have a lot of choice in terms of what you do with your life. And some people might have the aspiration because they want to teach, and other people have the aspiration that they want to entertain, and other people have the aspiration that they want to create a business that solves a problem, and other people want to work with kids, and some people want to work with old folks, and some people want to work with peers, and some people want to work with athletes, and et cetera, et cetera. So clearly we are endowed with different preferences. And I think it's really important that when you begin this idea that you're going to manifest your ideal life, that you connect with the desire that's in your heart. What is it that moves you? What is it that you would like to do? I don't know if you have to necessarily pick, well, I want to be a doctor, or I want to be a pilot, or I want to be a nurse, or I want to be a singer. I think the desire is, how do I want to express myself? In what avenues would I like to be free to express myself and, possibly earn an income at it? And that's one aspect. You could look at your professional life. You could also look at what is your desire with regards to relationships. Do I have a strong desire to be in a long-term committed relationship? Do I have a desire to pursue a spiritual path? Do I have a desire to have a lot of friends? Do I have a desire to have just a couple of really good friends? Do I have a desire to take care of my parents because I feel obliged to them? Do I have a desire to nurture my sister who's at a difficult time in life, et cetera, et cetera? So we want to first begin, and I really believe this is the beginning of all manifestation, is the choice as to what you want. And sometimes you have to unbraid the conditioning that's been taught to you as far as what you're supposed to want. It actually takes a lot more work than people realize to figure out what they want. And I teach that it's best if you have a meditation practice when you can calm yourself down and really work to have a relationship with that deep part of your heart that really strives for meaningful work, meaningful fun, meaningful pursuits. And most of the people that I've met, actually, who have done any kind of meditating often can tell you, I know deep down this is what I'd like to do. But a lot of times they go, I don't think it's possible, or, it's not really going to work out for me. But let's start with defining the desire of what you want. That definitely will likely change. Definitely will likely change. I think it will likely change as you mature and as you grow up. I mean, ask a 12-year-old what's their desire. It might be to be a great athlete. It might be to play video games all day. It might be to hang out with their friends. It might be to ask a girl out or a guy out that they have a crush on. You know, their life experiences are limited by what they've seen in 12 years. At 18 years, they may have new desires. Somebody might complete a degree and realize after doing the whole degree that they're not sure they want to pursue that field now that they really understand it. Other people are like, wow, I'm really glad I did that, and now my desire is really fueled and I want to do this. And so you have to leave room for your desires to change as you mature. But let's start off with the first letter of the acronym is D, and that is for desire. Find out what you desire. The next letter in our acronym is E for engagement. Now, engagement to me is defined as the desire implemented into activity. And if you're not engaged in something, it can become like drudgery. It can become like a chore. If we have the desire for something, and many of you know that when you aspire to create something, that there's a desire in your heart to manifest a certain experience or a certain success, there are certain parts of it that are fun, and there are other parts of it that are challenging or just boring or just, hard. If you are engaged, and when I say engaged, I mean you're emotionally committed to what you're doing such that you are able to withstand those difficult periods. You are able to go, yeah, it's hard, however, I know this is what I want to do. My desire is clear, and therefore I keep myself engaged. A life that is not engaging can become, very tedious and kind of irritating, and people can get depressed because they don't like what they do. And I really believe it's the responsibility of every individual soul. If you've gotten yourself into a situation where you don't like what you do, then there's nobody to blame, but you got to look inward and go, okay, how did I get here? Did I check my desires? And did I become unengaged at some point and I just kept going? If you want the ideal life, you got to figure out what you want, and then you have to become engaged in the manifestation process. Now, I've taught for a long time classes on visualization and how to manifest those things that you want. And I've I have studied it, and I've applied it in my own life, and I've learned a ton. And it's so exciting and so mysterious too. Maybe people would like it to be, well, just do this and it all works out. I just can never confidently say I've got it so figured out. There's always a little bit of uncertainty, and I think that that's God in the mix going like, I'm a little huger than you. So you're not going to be able to nail this down. But if you follow these principles, you'll see the end result and then refine for next time. And it's very engaging to me, actually. That is something that I find incredibly engaging, is to learn how to manifest those things that I desire and come up against the obstacles and overcome them and gain the skills. And I love teaching it too. So number 1, D for desire. Number 2, E for engagement. The third letter is C for creativity. Now this is one of the funnest parts. The fact that a human being has the presence of God within. And this is something I know, and it's something that if you pursue a mystical path and you have good teachers and you have a meditation practice, at some point, you're nudged and you're corralled and you're shepherded to this place within. As Christian mystics, we call it the Christ. You may hear it referred to as the Self with capital S. You may hear it referred to as the God Self. I think in other spiritual paths or religions, they probably have other words for it. But it is this spark of mystery that exists, a presence within. And because we have that, we have the power of creation. How does it work? I can't really explain how it works. There is more mystery to it than I can explain. But we have the ability to imagine something and then set about to make it reality. And that is very satisfying for a soul. When I say a soul, I mean you and me and everybody on this planet. All human beings have souls. And it's very fulfilling to engage your creative nature and manifest that which you desire. So all three of them are connected: your desire, your engagement, and your creativity. Now, if you take any one of those out of the mix, you have engagement and creativity, but you have no desire, then I think we've slipped out of that parameter that I'm calling the ideal life. So far, we want desire. So there's something that we want, that we love, that we want to see it through. We become engaged in the process so that we are emotionally invested, and we find it, despite the ups and downs, it's basically enjoyable and meaningful. And we get to be creative. There are elements, there is a freedom for us to express our version of what it is that we're trying to manifest. And that creativity, to me, is definitely part of the ideal life. Now, sometimes if it's career or relationship or friendship, you find that creativity is not welcomed or is not invited or there's not a freedom to express it. And in those cases, I would really encourage you to question whether or not you are involved in the right thing. I mean, you might not consider that in romantic relationships, that creativity is a big part of what makes it very satisfying. When you think about coming up with a date idea, or making a meal for somebody that you love, or buying a gift for them, or just sitting down to converse in a way that's creative, that you are creating an atmosphere, that you are creating an experience. It doesn't just have to be on special occasions. It's like you're excited about the idea of planning this date and taking your partner out. And the two of you are, vibing off each other, and you're creating an experience. If you've ever been in a relationship where you just feel like your creativity is not accepted and there's no room for it, it can be kind of, a little bit distressing. So you want somebody, if you're talking about a romantic relationship, who receives your creativity and encourages it and connects with it. They may not like everything that you do, but they allow for the expression of your creativity. The same thing in your workplace. If you have a job that you have no creative outlet, it's really just do this and don't ask questions. After a while, it's hard. It's hard to get yourself out of bed for that. I really believe that creativity is a huge aspect of the ideal life. Okay, the next letter in the acronym is A. And A stands for action. Think about the physical body that we have. Think about the capabilities that we have. You look at the people who are extremes, the athletes, the builders, the inventors. There are some people who are very engaged in taking their physical beings to the extreme. And it's good for us to see this because we see what's possible. When somebody works hard and disciplines themselves and they train, the things that a human body can do are just amazing. And if you've ever seen Cirque du Soleil shows, I went to some early Cirque du Soleil shows, probably about 20 years ago. And you just go like, how is that even possible? Oh my God, like the training. And I play squash, it's a game that I love. And I watch these guys play squash at the pro level, the top 10 players. And I'm just in awe. I really love watching it because I know it's possible. They're human beings. They have a body like mine, but they've worked and they've conditioned themselves and they have the skill and the subtleties and everything. So the human body is created to be active. And generally in the manifestation of your desire, in which you are engaged and being creative, you're going to need to take action. So an ideal life includes activity. Many times when activity is required, you will find resistance. Meaning, there are places that, won't be as cooperative as you would like. You need this particular thing, you send an email, and you don't get the response. And a day goes by, another day goes by, and you get frustrated. Or they say, yes, you'll need to drive out here to do it. So you go, oh man, I thought they could just email it to me, but I got to drive out. Don't be resistant to the action that is needed. Thank God that you have your faculties in order, that you are able to be active. I know that many people who were raised in difficult situations, who were mistreated or abused, and laziness becomes sort of a default because there's so much pent-up anger and sadness and feelings that nothing is going to work out and it doesn't matter because they've been beat down by somebody's criticism, that taking action just seems like a chore. I would encourage you to examine that and really embrace the idea of a human being as something that is created to be active. And I really want to encourage you to take care of your physical body. Be aware of what you eat. Be aware that as you age, you really need to keep your physical structure active in order that you have good mobility as you enter into your senior years. So review once again. Desire, that's D. Know what you want. Number 2. E for engagement. Engage in what you're doing, emotionally become invested, believe in the outcome, put your faith into something, and when it gets hard, you're engaged emotionally. You're like, it's hard, but this is going to work out. Creativity, whatever it is that you choose in your life, when you compile the aspects of your life, the relationships, the work, the place to live, the city, the vacations you take, the hobbies you take on, you want outlets that allow you to be creative, because it's very fulfilling. Even if you think you were really not good at whatever it is that you're doing, just the sheer act of creating something is to me an innate aspect of humanity. So you want to make sure there's a creative aspect. The 4th letter is A for action. You need to take action, and you need to embrace the action that is required for your ideal life to manifest. The final letter is L, and L is love. And to me, we could say that last letter is the most important. Certainly on the Christian path, love is the predominant teaching. That when you bring love to whatever it is that you're doing, the grace of God is like the wind behind you. It's very mysterious, I understand. And 15 years ago, before I found the mystical path, I really didn't know anything about love. I mean, I probably could have defined it, and like many people, we automatically jump to assume love is associated with romance, and love is about your primary, relationship partner. But really what I want you to think about in terms of love is that we as human beings, as souls, have the innate built-in functionality to care very deeply. On the earth, the state of the mentality of human beings has strayed from that, and there's a lot of reasons for it. The most compassionate read I can give you is that people are hurt and angry. And so we've taken on an idea that, well, this guy's against me and this guy's in my group, but these guys, I don't want anything to do with them, and if they have this color skin, or if they live on this planet, or they eat these foods, like they're practically my enemies. I got to buy guns in case they knock on my door. So that is all devoid of love. Love, let's be simple, is a deep, caring, empathy. It's a spirit of caring, really. I don't think of any other better word than that. It's just, you have to bring that kind of love to your creative endeavors, to your life. And for those of you who are familiar with the passage in Corinthians 13, love endures all. There's an element to it where we just condition ourselves, we train ourselves not to become frustrated and despondent and close our hearts when we hit difficulties or when somebody doesn't act the way we want to. Sometimes you'll hear it say love is long-suffering. So, yeah, in the state of things on the earth right now, it can be difficult, I know. And maintaining a connection to that love requires a lot of time. You have to learn how to do it, and you probably need a teacher to help you. Because as I was taught, and now I teach, I see all the same pitfalls that I went through. The getting quick to anger and wanting to write these people off and wondering why people can't just do it the way. And we lose steam for the things that we're trying to work on because it seems as though, it just doesn't work out the way we want. Love is sort of a magical, mystical element that transforms. I probably could do a whole video on that, and maybe I will. So let's recap again. The acronym is DECAL. I thought that was kind of cool, just like it's almost like your sticker. You could say, well, what's your decal? Your desire, your engagement, your creativity, your action, and your love. Now, let's assume that you want to try this out. This is the formula for the ideal life. You see that it's wide open. It's not like, well, I'm supposed to be a servant of God. I'm supposed to be a doctor. I'm supposed to be an airline pilot. I'm supposed to be, married with 2 kids and a dog. And I want to. If you want those things and your desire is in them, then yeah, engage, create it, take action, and pour your love into it. If you want to be somebody who is like, I want to be like a monk and I want to go study with a spiritual teacher and I'm willing to sacrifice a love relationship because I really want to know God, okay, that's your desire. So engage in it, create it, take action, find out where you can do it, and then pour your love into it. And it will manifest. Now you may find that there's a lot of refining because as your ideal life starts to become more reality, you might go, oh, I thought that I would really like this, but in reality, not as much. But I think this would really capture my attention. So you steer your boat in that direction. And you once again become engaged and you create, etc., etc. The last thing I want to say in this video, I want to talk about what I think can be very, very daunting for people who want to live a life in connection with God. Because many of us have heard that, well, God has a plan for you. And you should seek to follow God's will. Now, when people's lives are going rather difficult, the idea that, God has a plan for me and if I could just do that, man, I would be so content. But I have watched as I have taught people, okay, well, let me help you make this a reality. People get very nervous about, well, what is God going to want me to do? Like, am I going to have to, divorce my husband? Or am I going to have to go travel to a foreign country and work in poverty? Or am I going to have to, do things that I really don't like? That, I think, is a genuine concern of a lot of people. So let me bring my perspective to that. A human soul has a tremendous amount of choice and therefore responsibility. I really don't believe when someone says God has a plan for you that they're like, well, I know exactly what you should be doing, I just hope you wake up and start doing it. When you are connected to these things, your desire, engagement, creativity, action, and love, and if you happen to be somebody who has a desire to know God and be in relationship with that God self, the Christ within, then as you check your desire and your engagement and your creativity and your action and your love, you can feel whether or not it is congruent with that presence of high consciousness within, or it's driven more by your ego or your fears or your greed or your selfishness or whatever it is. And that refining is really exciting, but also, it creates a pressure. So don't fear and don't have a concept that, God has a plan for you and like, I kind of want to know what it is, but I kind of don't, because what if it's not what I want to do? What you want to do is very important. I really believe that a soul has tremendous potential to create an amazing life. But they definitely have to take the responsibility of finding out what moves them and then becoming very engaged in it and not giving up when it gets difficult. You need to express creatively, take action, and always be aware of to what degree love is in the mix. Try it out.